From the world of Cornish wrestling to the world of BJJ, this man has grappled with grappling itself. This is the Grappler Show, episode 55, Luke Hannaford. Show. I'm your host, Brett Summers, and joining me this week, we have a special guest. We have Luke Hannaford with us, and he is an ex-army man. He is a Cornish wrestler. He's done BJJ and he's done all sorts of grappling. He's got all sorts of experiences that he'd like to share with us this week. So, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us, Luke.
No, cheers. Thanks for having me. Cheers.
No problem at all. No problem at all. Now, the first question everyone gets when it's their first time on the show: where did it start for you?
So I'm a twin, being a twin, and then we all had to do everything together. So if it was rugby, we had to do rugby together, so on, so on. My brother Jamie, he was friends with Richard's cousin, I think, and then like we were all like the sort of the same age. Obviously, me and my twin was, but is Richard's cousin's the same sort of age as us. Jamie got pally with him, got told, oh yeah, I do Cornish wrestling, we wrestle on grass. So like my brother started, so I had to start. And then then I went and got coached by Mike, and then Richard, and then bloody hell, like 12, 13 years later, here I am coaching it myself. So yeah.
So what was it when they sort of said this wrestling thing and it's on grass and whatever? Was it something? Had you heard about this sort of thing before? Because I mean, most people, when especially at a young age, you say wrestling to kids, most of them think WWE or WWF as it probably was then. But you're like, no, this is on grass. Is it something you'd heard of, or is it something that was a bit sort of like, what are you talking about?
No, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'd never heard of it, which is unfortunately pretty common in Cornwall. I'd never heard of it. I'd never known. Funny enough, I'd never known anyone that done it until I started doing it, and then my granddad was like, "Oh yeah, my brother done that years ago, and he went to Lorient and wrestled out in Lorient, which we still do like today." And yeah, he wrestled alongside like Mike and Jerry out in Lorient. But like until I'd started Cornish wrestling, I'd never heard of it.
Oh man! So just for those who might be joining for the first time, maybe this is their first podcast or whatever. What is Cornish wrestling to you? You know, what is it? What does it involve? Because some people might be thinking, "Oh, what is it? I've not heard of this before," and they can go back and listen to the other episodes. But in the
Yeah.
meantime, what is it? What is it to you? What did it involve for you as a young lad coming into it and this world opening up?
So go back and listen to Richard's one, 'cause he does a better job at explaining stuff than I do. But yeah, so basically Cornish wrestling. If no one's ever seen it before, it's basically like the stand-up version of judo. Is the easiest way to say it. So you have a jacket, and then the idea is to throw your opponent flat on their back, and either score as many points as you can, or throw them onto their back to score what we call as a back, which is 3 or more points. So the score. So now I'm going on about points. I might as well say the scoring
Right.
system. So a point for each shoulder, and then a point for just above each hip, just above the buttocks of each hip. So you land with a flat back. If you can either win by points or by a back to win. But yeah, you stand up, and you always remain stood up. Anything apart from your feet touch the floor, you have to break, stand back up, shake hands and go again. Um, but for me, it was, I don't know. I just I've always liked like martial arts. I'd never really done anything else. Um, I'd like dabbled in a few other things, but I just like the physicality of it. Like you go in gentlemanly, shake hands, even if you're in there with your best mate or most of the time my brother, you go in there as soon as you grab the jacket and you're close. They can't retreat. You can't retreat. You're both there. You've got a grip on the jacket. So it was just that physicality. You couldn't. No one could retreat. You were just there. You had hands on the jacket and just had to give it your best for 10 minutes. So yeah.
And your memories, and so you're doing this as a young lad. How does that progress from something that you're doing it as a kid, and like a lot of things like you say when you're a kid you do lots of clubs and do lots of activities and things. When does this become something that gets a bit more embedded? Maybe you start to do it every week, or it starts to become actually I'm quite good at this or whatever. Because like I say we all do different hobbies and things when we're kids and that. But when does it become something a little bit more?
Um, I don't know. I think I think just the fact, like as a kid, you don't understand money and how much everything costs. But now I'm a coach. Obviously, we keep our prices low enough, and we supply the jackets. So it was something because we find a lot of the time the kids or the children or whoever are interested, but the people that are taking them sometimes might not be, or they might be like,
Yeah.
and like especially in today's climate, everyone's like struggling for a bit of money. So we've always kept the prices low, and I think like from like my mum's perspective, obviously at the time I didn't know, but now I'm like the father myself. Once you start having like kids clubs and swimming and
God,
all
yeah.
sort, it all adds up, doesn't it? Um, so yeah, so I think like it was easy for me and my brother to go, um, because it was cheap that we could go. We didn't have to buy any extra kit. It was £2 a session. So what's that? £8 a month. Do you know what I mean for one person to go? So it's
Yeah.
when in the great scheme of things, it's not a lot. Do you know what I mean? It's not even a McDonald's really if you think
Yeah, not
when you think
nowadays.
about it
Yeah.
like that, you know. Um, but yeah, it started getting a bit more. Um, Again, it was just easy. Like me and my brother used to wrestle. We just put on a rubbish t-shirt and away you go. We just used to put on a t-shirt and a pair of shorts and we'd rip the garden up just training like constantly, relentlessly. And to be honest, I was never that good. It's like one of the first things I say when I train people is I'd never, especially for my first year, 2 years, I didn't win a thing. Again, so I had Richard's cousin. He used to love going backwards, and he'd always catch you. You'd come in forwards, and he'd send you backwards, and then you think you've have him backwards, and he'd send you forwards.
But, yeah.
And I was always me and my brother were always the smallest. We were always the lightest. So you adapt to different things. And then I finally found like a handful of moves. I think like a main thing with people starting a sport is they want to learn all the moves, and I did. I wanted to learn everything, and then when I actually knuckled down and learn like the slip crook was my or what I say my move is what I learned the most or practiced the most, and then that was like well my first championship I ever won was the under 18s. I was down on points to a lad that used to wrestle called Toby. Um, and yeah, I was down on points. He was whooping me, and then Richard was obviously coaching from the side, and he was like, "Only takes one throw," and then I only had like a couple of minutes left on like the time, and I got him in a crook, and then slipped that crook, and then I backed him, and then won my first championship, and I think from then it was right. I just need to knuckle down and learn the basics well, and then everything else will follow, and that's what I did, and that's what I teach, and for the most part, they do better when they actually listen to the advice.
Okay. So you've gone from there. So you grappled from a young age then with the Cornish wrestling, and there's a part where the army comes into it as well. I mean, was there any sort of grappling in the army? Did the Cornish wrestling help with all that? Because there must be some sort of hand to hand elements, I imagine.
Yeah, well, yeah, sometimes. Um,
Or like in your training,
more,
at least, not
yeah,
necessarily what you
more,
do.
yeah, more so messing around in the blocks, I
Yeah.
suppose. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've got a few funny stories, but they might not be relevant to tell. But um, yeah, usually like on deployments or in the block, like usually have a mess around on a weekend or after a few drinks.
Mm.
Um, but even then, again used to get you. I was very good at like getting someone on their ass, but past that, I was rubbish, which is hence why I started doing BJJ. Like I could get someone lying down, and then people would tap me out all the time because I didn't know
Right.
nothing else on the ground.
Uh,
But yeah, it did definitely help, especially when it comes to like back strength and stuff like that. Like obviously, you're hinged a lot of the time, so
yeah.
like your lower back, especially when you start, or like we all joke around at the beginning of the season and go, "Oh yeah, your back will be hurting tomorrow," and it's true because it does take a toll on your body. But I found like, especially with like weight carrying and stuff like that, again, I was a smaller build, and then carrying near enough my body weight on my back, and then going off and tabbing or whatever. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, tabbing or whatever. But I found out that well, I found that my back was pretty strong from wrestling, so it definitely crossed over relatively well.
Yeah. And you're saying about then like the move to sort of BJJ as well, because like the sort of ground game of it. When, like you say, you talked about it then in the role in, in the with your army friends. But when did that become more apparent? When was it like there's a gap here and I need to plug this gap in my game sort of thing? How did was there a training in the army for that, or was it a club you went and found, or
Um, yeah, so funny enough is actually when I left the army. So
okay.
I left the army and then I had loads of time. I just had time to fill on my hands. 'Cause I had like a 6 month window of like I saved all my leave, and I had like this 6 months where I wasn't doing
Yeah,
anything. And really, I should have been like concentrating on a course that I'm trying to do. But instead, as everyone does, it's always better to look back in hindsight.
yeah,
But yeah,
100%.
no, I had a lot of time on my hands, and Richard and I we were trying to upscale like the social media. So we done a lot of work. We gathered like sponsorships and we were reaching out to different people. And then I thought like St. Morgan's probably are one of our busier tournaments of the year. Um, Down in St. Morgan happens every year, apart
Yeah.
from a couple years ago due to weather, but it's our most common, and that's when I first met a bloke called Ross Ridpath, who, funny enough, is he got his black belt from RAF that you had on.
Oh yeah.
So that's like sort of where this links. So like he's part of like the RDS Bone Breakers, or he's the coach for the Bone Breakers, or we call ourselves the Bone Breakers. Um, but yeah, so I'd met him like donkeys ago, wrestled him when I was a beanpole, and there's him, Mark Rowlett, who's heavy in the MMA scene. Um, Mark from K2, and I thought, sod it, I'll reach out to these lot because they've done the sport, but I'll reach out and try to get in there. And I did. I reached out um, and got some great feedback. I went and done um, wrestling. I done wrestling as part of a JIT seminar with Ross at Absolute MMA, which is in Bugle. Um, and yeah, I went there and they done like a grading, and I watched them and I thought, bloody hell, some of these boys are animals. Like it was weird. Like went round showing them some like showing them like a handful of moves, like me and Richard, uh, and then like it just went from there. Like I went there, went K2 and done a bit of jits at K2, and then went to Asgard, which is in Bodmin, um, and then done a bit of wrestling there. And then they were like, "Well, why don't you put a gi on and
Mm.
stay for the jits?" And I was like, "Yeah, go on, then I'll try a bit of jits,"
Yeah.
and just fell in love with it. And it was good as well because it was during the kind of off season of wrestling. So wrestling's kind of like an on and off season. Um, and it was kind of I started it at the start just to break the gap. So I'd wrestle during the wrestling season, and then when there was that like gap in training where we weren't training as much or there wasn't as much competition, I was going and doing that just to keep the fitness up. and then yeah, fell in love with it. But um, I mean, I need to go back. Need to go back there. To be fair, like working, well, you know what it's like with work and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Everything sort of
100%. Yeah.
takes other commitments. Like, but yeah, no, it was really good. And like I said, just use it to fill the gap between the both. But I found stats. So I went to my first comp in Devon, and I found I, I always get nervous before a comp anyway, even wrestling, and half of them I coach anyway. But like, so the nerves are always there, but it's more of like an excitement nerve. And then, like, again, once you've got hold of each other, it's like, oh yeah, this is all right. And then you get more and more relaxed. But I remember going into the jits comp and I was like, yeah, I'm going to throw this bloke. And I went from the car park. I was already running late. Put my gi on, jumped straight in, and then I was like, oh, I'll just go in there. I'll try to wrestle him, and I got grips on his jacket, and I was like, here we go. And then as I went to step in, he just fell to the floor, and I was like, oh, like went to like full guard, but he done it
No.
poorly. But yeah, I was like, bloody hell, I just couldn't believe it. I was like, oh, I thought people wanted to wrestle, but obviously in jits, everyone's a butt scooter, aren't they? So,
Yeah, there's a whole element of that that could be just that's a podcast on its own, I think.
oh, it is, isn't
But
it? Yeah.
but I do think there was somewhere I read the other day of one of the grappling things in America now where I think if someone drops down before they touch you, you're allowed to kick them now.
That was it.
So I think, which I think is quite good because I mean, yeah, there is a skill in it, but if the first thing you do is like both of you drop to the floor and go along like dogs,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
just sort of like, where's there's a martial in the arts as well,
yeah, yeah.
sort of like, yeah. But no, but again, that's a whole other debate. But yeah, no, that annoys me. So how was it then? So you're doing your competitions now in jiu-jitsu. You've got the Cornish wrestling season going on. Obviously there's a ground game element, but what else? Actually, you just hinted at it as well, actually, with the guard pulling. But what other contrasts and comparisons did you make? Where there's certain things that really did help, certain things you like didn't help, or in both sports. When you went back to wrestling after jiu-jitsu, were there certain things you think, oh yeah, I could do that now, or whatever, in the techniques or in the preparation?
Yeah, I mean, it was little things. So like again, being thrown. So like if someone threw me at wrestling, you don't want to land on your back, so you land on your front. So you try and get your face onto the floor, but obviously then you've just given them your back, which obviously in
Yeah,
jits is like, well, if you take someone's back, I think it's something like 90% success rate if someone's got your
yeah,
back
go
and
back,
they
yeah.
finish you. So that was like one thing, like learning how to break fall and stuff like that, and like land on your back. And again, it was like different grips. So like downward C, so we can't grip skin or yourself. You can only grip like the jacket,
Hmm.
um, which was all right in gi. But when I went and done no gi, you're trying to grab onto stuff that's not there, or excuse me, or you grab their top and people get funny about it. You're like, oh, sorry, mate. But
Yeah.
then it's just like learning like a collar tie and like a downward C grip or like underhooks. And again, it's all the terminology as well, like downward C, underhooks. Whereas like Cornish wrestling, you like all you hear is someone just shout out, "Yeah, work the jacket" or something like that. So
Mhm.
um, it was something. But again, it's helped our game a lot. Like Cornish wrestling, like I can now implement all these words like an underhook or like um, collar tie or um, yeah, just like different terminology you can use to help everyone else understand what they actually need to do instead of shouting from the sideline. Yeah, you need to get your arm under. You just shout underhook and it's there. It saves having to say a sentence. So that was like quite good from like a coaching perspective. Um, but yeah, but I found as well that I was better at no gi than gi. So I thought it'd be the other way round. But yeah.
Well, from the coaching side of it, then, because obviously you've grown up with the Cornish wrestling and the traditions, and in as we talked about in the previous episode, Richie, it's been around for a very long time. I can't remember how long it has been around for, but for a very, very long time. And you're taking on these traditions now, and you're coaching it, and obviously trying to build the sport and lead it up. That can be a bit of pressure on shoulders. How do you sort of cope with that? How do you work with all that?
Yeah, I mean, I think. I think we just like you got to embrace change. I think that's like the hardest thing that
Mm.
um being relatively new to actually impacting the sport. Whereas you got like Richard and his dad Mike, they've been doing it for years, paying out their own pocket to keep it alive. They were
Yeah,
there when it was just like some days they were just there looking at each other. Do you know what I mean? Like there was no one to coach. They'd set up and they're just looking at each other. They might as well have stayed at home, but they still went um, in the off chance. And I think like bringing a new um, a new look at stuff. So I mean, me and Richard have changed over the last 2 years. We've changed how we run things. I wouldn't say significantly, but in comparison to like 10, 15 years ago, like a lot. Obviously, you've got social media is a big thing at the minute. Um, yeah, like obviously nothing happens without social media. You can't like it's all well and good saying something on the radio, but not many people listen to the radio anymore,
yeah,
or put it on a newspaper. No one's going to read it. It's got to be on Facebook, Instagram, and like other people can see it. I mean, for instance, um, last year we had people from I think it's Bournemouth they come from. So like a load of judo boys, they all come down. They got coached by my brother whilst he was up there, and also Paul Sawyer, who's their coach, their judo coach. He's done Cornish wrestling before, um, and and he knows he definitely knows his way around judo. But yeah, so like they all come down from Bournemouth, and then this year for the heavyweight competition, we had people come down from Scotland just for the day. So obviously our impact's doing something well.
yeah.
Um, but another thing that we're going to try implement that will help, that should help um, keep people into wrestling. So we found like in Cornish wrestling, there's no like grading. It's not like BJJ, kickboxing, boxing, whatever. We haven't got a grade. You're a champion or you're not. Um, and that's sort of what it is at the minute. It's either you're bloody good or you're not quite good. Um, so yeah, so Richard and I we're in the process of making a little booklet, like a progression booklet, and then like there'll be like a grade in, and then you'll get signed to like grade up, and then people should know where they're sort of going wrong and where they need to improve, sort of thing. Again, it's basics done well, and then progressing from there up the
Yeah.
stages to more fancy moves, if you'd put it that way, or like different moves. That should help. Like, yeah.
Excellent. What about then? Because obviously, you've got a personal training sort of background in that as well. How does that help then? What are you doing off the mat? So for Cornish wrestling, is it the same sort of preparation for BJJ as well? Is grappling in that respect, or are there certain things you're doing for one and not the other?
No, yeah, I think it's more the same. I mean, again, only the past couple of years, like people have always weight cut, but I found like now we've got more people coming from like BJJ and like the MMA background. There's more, should I say, like drastic weight cuts. Um, um, and obviously, strength is just one big thing in all grappling sports, like explosive strength as well as cardio. Um, and I think to a certain extent you can't without training for doing specific training for any kind of sport. um it'll only take you so far. Like you could do wrestling, you could do boxing, you could do football, rugby, and you could just train that and you'd get very good, but without like that strength element, do you know what I mean, it won't take you that step further that you
Yeah.
could be. Do you know what I mean?
Definitely, definitely. What about on the cardio side then? Because there's a lot of different theories and all that with the technique. I mean, what's your sort of? Because some people would say like it's better to go like long and hard. Some people say like do it in short bursts as if it's rounds. For instance, I mean, most people I know have got some sort of exercise bike or cross train or something like that. Would you recommend them maybe like longer, harder periods to say, I don't know, a certain distance, or would you say like do it in short bursts or whatever? What sort of things? Because no, for the grappling side of it, I mean, jiu-jitsu, we're talking 5, 8 minute rounds, maybe 10 minutes if you're a black belt. Cornish wrestling, it's how long's a bout? Is it
Yeah,
10,
10 minutes, yeah, or
10
a
minutes? Yeah.
championship, two 10
So
minute bouts. So yeah.
so what would you be looking at? What would you recommend then? So if someone's sort of trying to train like cardio side for that, what would work or what would you recommend?
Um, I mean, for a starter, anything's better than nothing. Which I think is the main bit with most people is like you don't have to go sign up for a gym or anything like that. Like if especially if you're doing it for a hobby or anything like that, then you don't necessarily have to be like that next level. But I think a mixture of all in between. So like you're doing your long runs, build up like just build your lungs up. Do you know what I mean? Like get your body used to going for a distance. Um, but and then like you got like your short sessions. So me personally, I like shorter sessions. So like in more interval or like fartlek training. So like you're doing a bit and then you're resting for a bit and then you're doing a bit more. Especially like when I've done a bit of boxing in the army. We used to run from camp to this little hill called Concrete Hill or lampposts, and you'd run there like as warm up, run there as a squad, and then our coach would drive there, and then it'd be waiting at the top of the hill, and then we had to do like progressions up the hill. So you go to like a bush or a lamp, and then you'd run there or like sprint there, jog back, and then you'd break that point to like the second point and come back. So you're doing like hill reps, but like
Oh, yeah.
increasing the distance. And I found that really worked and like really helped, especially for wrestling because it's not all go, if that makes sense. Like a lot of the time you're in a hitch and you're waiting to react or you're thinking in your head if that foot moves there, if he goes this way, and then I'll bring him back over and then I'll turn in. There's like so much going on in your head. And then when it does happen, it's just a short burst and then you're back out. So it's like I found that the more like how would you say it? More like interval training, like 80 to 90% like capacity, like going as fast as you can, but for a short period of time, just to really get into like the speed of things. And but yeah, that's what I found like the best in my experience. But again, everyone's different. Some people like it,
That's the
some
thing.
people don't.
Now, so there's a lot of debates over all the training things gone in the spotlight again a lot more lately. Again, I think half of it linking in with sort of weight cutting and all the controversy that's still around all that. I mean, what have you got any comments on that? Because I mean, it seems to be more under control nowadays, but we still keep getting every so often there's like a UFC fight. Where I mean, there was one a few months back where I think it was a woman. She almost collapsed walking through the door. Like it was all ready to go, and as they went to walk out, she collapsed and got rushed to hospital. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
people are still making these extreme things. Where, in my opinion, is if everyone just fought their own way, everyone would be fighting each other anyway. You know,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
everyone's killing each other to fight themselves, lose 5 or 6 pounds to fight each other at the same weight they would have fought at anyway if they didn't bother. It's I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, preparation is definitely key. Like, especially if you know something's coming up, like starting the weight cut early. Um, like yeah, you might drag it out, but it's a lot safer than drastically cutting weight. Like it's easier to cut. Let's just say you got 8 weeks, you cut, I don't know, 100 to 200 calories a week until that 8 week point, and then you start in the middle there, you start to increase like a bit of cardio. Um, Again, everyone's body's different. Everyone trains differently. Some people react better to like smaller block weight cuts. Some people react, or I'd say most people with normal day to day life, an 8 to 12 week block to cut weight is a lot better than five to like a 6 to 4 week. Um, Again, talking from experience, like I'm a tank transporter by trade. That's like my job at the minute. And last year when I was cutting weight for a jits comp, I left it last minute and spent 2 days fasting before the comp. And I get aggy when I don't have food, so I wasn't very pleasant to be around.
But do you think it's something now? Are we at a point now where we should just like knock it on the head across sports, or is it something you think that will just continue to sort of linger there? Because maybe if they did it like you got to weigh in on the same day or something like that. I don't know what because what do you think on that?
I don't know. Um, I don't know. I think as long as people are doing it and they know their limits, I mean, I wouldn't do it every weekend, but once in a while. And I mean, like, there's research now that says that fasting is really good for you. It's something actually that I've been looking into like more recently, just to get my head around it. Because some people are like, oh no, you don't need to fast, and then there's like other benefits of like it boosts testosterone and boosts growth hormone as long as you're doing it. But again, you got to do it safely and I'd never tell anyone to go do it, but as long as they've done the research and they know the
Yeah,
pros and cons to it. Um, but um, but I think it's something that most fighters all go through is or like their first dodgy weight cut or something like that, their first like last minute weight cut. It's always something that like if you were to step into like a gym and someone's fought and then it's someone else's first fight and they're like, oh yeah mate, them saunas are horrible, like it's something that brings it's always like a talking point. It brings everyone together. It's a bit like the army in the fact that everyone's got to go through like CBRN, which is like chemical like chemical warfare sort of thing. So you get your respirator on, they make you do star jumps and stuff like that and beast you so you're out of breath, and then you go into this room with like this honking stuff in the room, and they make you take your mask off, and then they make you say your number, and you've probably
yeah.
seen the videos, and they come out spluttering.
Yeah, I've seen what
It's
they've done on that SAS survival, celebrating
yeah,
the
yeah,
SAS thing and all that. It's like, yeah, it looks horrible.
yeah, and that's like across the board. Like it doesn't matter what you're in. It doesn't matter if you're a driver, infantry, or a clerk. Everyone goes through it, and it's something that like once you say it to someone, they're like, oh yeah, we had a lad that like puked up, or like it's always something like it's just something that everyone's got in common. I think that's the same in like the martial arts world. If people
Yeah,
have competed and cut weight, it's something that everyone's got in
one's
common. It's
done.
like a
Yeah.
dodgy weight cut. Not that I recommend it, but a dodgy weight cut.
Yeah, because again, that is one of the hot topics at the moment. So I just thought I'd get your views on that as it popped up. But moving in there, we're nearly into 2026 now. What is happening in Cornish wrestling next year? What are you involved in? What's going on? What are the plans? You talked about putting in this sort of new system of like, coaching and teaching it. What else there bigger tournaments coming up? Are there different things happening?
Yeah. So again, as per every year, um, we just keep we keep expanding. Don't know why we don't have a lot of time on our hands, but again, we're going to be demoing throughout Cornwall. As always, in all our competitions as standard. This year, we've got Lorient, which is like a big Celtic festival. So if anyone likes anything to do with the Celts, like singing, dancing, wrestling, I mean, obviously I'm there for the wrestling and the singing. Not much of a dancer myself, but I do like a good sing song with a couple of beers. But like the wrestling itself, so we got Cornish wrestling. You have the Backhold and Goren or Guren. Um, they're like the three main ones. I believe this year they're trying to get something else in, but I don't know what. But this year, like I say, is the year of the Cornish. So like to get like a big group of people from Cornwall to go over. I know there's talks about getting a boat over. So there's going to be like some sort of boat that goes from Cork. Obviously, not the ferry.
Yeah.
I can hear people going now. Yeah, mate, it's called a ferry. But apart from the ferry, there's going to be like this. I forgot the word they use now, but they're going to have this boat to go into Lorient Harbour, and then there should be like a few exciting things happening from that, especially with the wrestling side if it all goes ahead.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, and I think just pushing it out even more. I'm hoping to go self-employed this year and start like doing um, like personal training, but also doing like 12-week um, sort of like feeler sessions. So like going into like different gyms around Cornwall and doing like 12-week blocks at each gym, just to get a bit of interest because like I said earlier, it's boost our game. And it's not changing Cornish wrestling, but it's changing it for the better, you know. So like I remember when I first started, there was a handful of moves and everyone gripped the jacket the same way. Now we've got people coming from a judo background, they grip the jacket and they throw you in an opposite way. And then you got people from jits again, they hold the jacket in a different way. So
Yeah.
it's making you more versatile to everything else that's out there.
No, I think it sounds good because I mean, going back a few years back now, like when like it reminds me a bit like the snake pit in Wigan with the catch wrestling because like they'd stopped doing the catch for a while, and Roy Wood was only teaching freestyle, then he got persuaded to do the catch again, and obviously over probably like 20 odd years that's been it's regrown and sort of come back into its life, but it was almost on sort of life support at one point, and it's back again, and I'm just impressed with like how much you guys, you know, with the traditions of the Cornish side of it, that it's still going and it's still going, still growing and stuff because you know it's one of our sort of really it's one of our national sports, same as the catch style that is from this country that you know people often say, oh no, the UK is not known for wrestling, but we are.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We've
I
got
mean,
different styles, and it's good to see that they're still there and they're still being practiced.
yeah. I mean, Cornish wrestling allegedly is like one of the old or one of the oldest like martial arts in the world, you know. Um, I'm sure Richard said it in the last one. Like we've had
Yeah,
like King Henry VIII. There's like a couple of US presidents that have done it.
yeah.
It used to be part of like the knight school or something like that. So like knights, any sort of knight in the King's army would have come down to Cornwall, or we would have gone to them, and they would have trained in
Learned it,
Cornish
yeah.
wrestling.
It's great. It's coming on. So what else then for you? So you got the Cornish wrestling side going on. Is BJJ still a thing for you, or is it something, or is it more focused on the back on the Cornish side?
No, yeah, I want to do both. I love doing both. I want to do more, to be fair.
So
Um,
targets sort of coming up for the next year.
yeah, I mean, like I say, I want to go self-employed this year. So, all being well, can go self-employed. That should open me up to because the main trouble I have is I work away. So I work away a lot, and I don't mind going to different gyms, but I know how I like to be coached, and some of the gyms where I work are not the way I like to be coached. Not that there's anything wrong with the way they train. It's just I'm I don't know. I don't know how to explain it really. I just like where I train pretty much. And
Yeah.
then like there's a good group of lads that I train with. They're all absolute killers. But it's humble, whereas some places aren't as humble. Which I think I'll dive onto a side path now, which I think
Yeah,
if
go
anyone is
for it.
going to start to do martial arts is try different gyms. If just because you don't like one gym, you don't maybe they're like I mean, everything's rough. Do you know what I mean? But some gyms are a lot rougher than others. And I mean, there's you just find the right gym for you. I think that martial art is something that everyone should be doing. Do you know what I mean? Don't don't let one bad experience ruin it. Just try somewhere else and just see if that goes into fruition. Because there's always somewhere else. Like you look at, I think like if you look at Newquay, I think we've got like three different gyms in Newquay. Then there's like one or two in Bodmin. Um, you got Absolute in Bugle, and then there's probably another one in St Austell. There's just gyms everywhere. Just find one.
Yeah, no, it's mad nowadays. I think the time it took to used to be able to find one somewhere in the middle of nowhere or something, and now there's like it's almost getting to the point where there's one on every corner. It's almost Starbucks like, you know. It's just
100%,
I was
yeah,
just saying that to some of the kids at our club the other day. I said, you don't realise, and then like the fact you know you can go on YouTube and look stuff up. You know, we were like getting third generation copied videos off of some dodgy
yeah,
tape
yeah,
trading list from someone else or something. You know, it's yeah, it's yeah, it's crazy, but in a
yeah.
good way. But so you got that going on. So you got the jiu-jitsu, you got the wrestling. So what then, if someone's listening to this and they're thinking, okay, this Cornish wrestling sounds interesting, what's the best way for them to get involved? Because obviously, geographically, it can be a bit tricky if you're
Yeah.
living, like, let's say you've got people in Scotland who might want to try it or whatever. But what's the best thing people can do? Where can they go? Like, what? How can they get in touch with you guys?
Yeah, so probably the best way is like we got Facebook and Instagram. I mean, our Facebook is probably our main asset with getting hold of us, just due to everyone having jobs, really. Um, so like Facebook's our main asset. Failing that, email us at Cornish Wrestling Association at Gmail. And yeah, again with Facebook and Instagram, if you type Cornish Wrestling, we're the first thing that pops up. So just shoot us a message. Um, if you are training elsewhere, I mean, going back to like you had to have like third party videos. We used to have like little booklets, but they've sort of like died out. We've managed to find a handful of them again, and we're trying to get them, or we have got them, translated in Cornish as well. Um, so hopefully we can get them running back up again and send them out. But also something that we're looking at doing next year or the year after is starting to put up like tutorials on YouTube and stuff like that.
Cool.
And then putting on again, we just want a bigger social media presence, but well, as you know, doing this and full-time job, it's not a
Yeah.
small task, is it really?
No, not at all.
Um,
Not at all. 'Cause, I mean, social media. I was explaining that to kids at school the other day because I've got some year 11s and they're applying for college and all that now. And I was just saying, look, you might be applying for, you might end up with a job that doesn't exist yet. And they were like, what do you mean a job that doesn't exist? And I was saying, like, social media managers 10 years ago, when or whatever, no one had one. Now companies have people just to do that because it's so important and so much of an
yeah,
issue now, that needs to be kept on top of us, and it is, and whatever the next thing that comes along will be even more so because
oh yeah,
it's constantly evolving. There's always some sort of new thing coming out. I said that's what you guys all need to keep up on because that'll be where the jobs are and where all the differences are made.
yeah, 100%. You got that. You got AI and all that.
Yeah, AI stuff and all that now.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is, and it's just like, no, that'd be really good though, because I think that'd be a really good way of sort of again, spreading the gospel of Cornish wrestling. Because, I mean, we'd like to get you up at some point, maybe at our gym in Southampton, but like you say, trying to get people up because everyone's got lives, and and Cornwall is it's right down there, and it's
yeah,
like, oh, well, it is in the direction I'm pointing on my screen, and the hand's gone the other way, so yeah, actually, it's down here. But like, and it's a bit of a drive, and geography sometimes can be a bit of a get in the way of things.
oh,
But
100%. Like
but
the amount
that's
of
that. Oh, go on. The
yeah, I
amount of
was going to
people.
say like the amount of people that we have that are from like the Midlands or like well anywhere north of Cornwall, but even like America, we get you'd be surprised on the amount of people from America we have asked about Cornish wrestling to the point where we've gone, it might be worth paying for flights to go over. There's like that much interest.
Yeah.
But again,
Actually,
America's such a big place. Like I'm not geographically sound. Everyone's just saying like somewhere in America. I'm like, yeah, yeah, all meet in the middle. But like again, for them, that's
yeah.
like going from like Glasgow to Cornwall, like or further. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
so again, that's no small feat. But it'd be cool to like eventually have Cornish wrestling something like what it was back in the day, where it was like, blimey, we've had it everywhere. Africa, Australia, America, anywhere there was a mine, there was Cornish wrestling.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And like now it's back to just being in Cornwall. Do you know what I mean? So hellish like
I think it'll grow. I think it'll grow. And also with that though, you get what would come with that growth. I mean,
100%.
how does how is it seen in Cornwall with maybe outsiders partaking in the secret arts of Cornish wrestling. Because it can be quite, it can be a bit without meaning it sound horrible, and it's the same with the stuff in Wigan, the same with different martial arts around the world. It's had those elements at times where this is like local for local people. It's not for others and stuff. And you guys bringing it out so much, is it seen as a good thing, or is there a traditional kind of,
Yeah, I
you shouldn't be
mean,
doing that?
again, I think this is something that got carefully word it, I think. But no, this is something. This is
I was
something that
thinking it
like.
as I was saying it, but I'm hanging it here. Sorry, sorry.
But no, yeah. So I think this is something that um, Cornish wrestling as a whole wasn't very good at. It was not bending the rules, but like inviting others in. Like you look at judo and how fast that grew, and then you got Cornish wrestling, and it was big, but then they never changed with the times, and then it went smaller and smaller and smaller, and then still never changed, and then now we're trying to change it, and it is growing back up. Um, but like we get it with like I wouldn't say it's um, I wouldn't say anyone that comes from outside are frowned upon coming in, but it is very much if they win a championship then a lot of the old and bold, oh, back in my day, whoa, and you're like, yeah, I get that, but it ain't back in your day. Some of these boys are beasts, like like don't get me wrong, they were probably beasts back in their day, um, but yeah, like even stuff like judo and stuff like that, like judo was different back then. They weren't as um I think it's very technical. It was very technical back then, but I think it's more so now with like what people can and can't do. Like I had amazing like experience like this year with one of the older wrestlers, Dave, and for an old bloke, I'd never been put in like a position that was so tight, and I was like, how on earth did you do that? And me and him spent a good 30, 40 minutes between like wrestling bouts going over what they used to do and I was like yeah I do that now but I've changed that move to this um because of what I've learned in like jits or like judo and stuff like that and he's like oh I'd have never thought about that back in the day and then he's like but I wish I knew that because that would have helped me with so and so and it's just like it was a good experience to get that old style that's not dying out but it's not as common as it is now um, and then blending it with like the newer stuff that we're sort of I wouldn't even say it's newer, it's just adapted adapted like techniques just to suit what we're having at the moment.
A lot more now, and I think this is across the board on all the different martial arts now. Again, it's the same thing. Again, going up to like the catch wrestling championships, the world championships in Wigan. People was saying like, some of the people winning it now aren't catch wrestlers. It's like, yeah, but grappling has evolved that much now. In those days when it was the snake pit or it was the Cornish wrestling, and those people there were the top of their game and knew it, not everyone else knew anything.
Yeah,
It wasn't a judo club down the road. It wasn't a BJJ club. And those people were great and they were wizards at what they did, but it wasn't a common knowledge. It was almost a bit magic circle like. You had to get into those circles to learn those things.
yeah,
Whereas now there's a lot more people come in with, most. I imagine most people now have at least tried something by the time they get to 18, whether it's judo, jiu-jitsu, karate, wrestling,
yeah,
whatever the different, everyone's at least brought something to it. Whereas years ago, it wasn't. It was almost secret societies of pockets of people who had all these skills and things that weren't common knowledge. So it will expand like that. Like you say, you've got all these adaptations you guys are making. There's all these different grapplers doing the traditional catch stuff in Wigan now that they're bringing into it because they've got these backgrounds. And I think it's great. I mean, that's what this is really. This podcast, it's we're all. My thing is we're all branches in the same tree. Everything's sort of growing in the same way. It just depends where you are, where it was growing. What's a certain throw to you will be a certain throw to someone else will be a certain throw to someone else. An arm lock in one thing will be an arm lock. There's only so many ways you can get thrown or arms and legs bent. Just depending on where you are, they called it something different or whatever. It's all entwined somehow. And I think that's the great thing of this and getting all these different styles on here. People can learn about them and develop them and go and check them out for themselves. And just seeing it all develop, I think is really good. And I want to get down to you guys in 2026 at some point. I have to get dates because one of my wrestling coaches as well, he wants to come down and he wants to do a thing where he's doing he wants to try all the different traditional styles and like do a bit of a road trip. So we'll have to get
Tom,
some dates.
yeah, Tom Village is on about coming back from America. So yeah, if you want to jump on that, he's coming down at some point. So I'll let you know the dates.
Yeah, no, that'd be cool because again, it's just something where again, I think everyone can learn from everything because there's a reason that it's lasted that long. Cornish, like you say, Cornish wrestling is one of the oldest martial arts in the world. There's a reason it's lasted that long,
Yeah,
and it's time for you guys to share those reasons.
I hope so.
I could say it. You can't.
Yeah.
No, but it is really good. And again, you as a grappler yourself now, you've got that Cornish background, you've got the BJJ background. Is there anything else that you want to look at, maybe give a try as, you know, any goals or bucket lists for yourself as a grappler that you think, oh, one day I'm going to do this, or I'm going to try and get that on?
Yeah, I like the yeah, I want to go out and try a bit more really. I mean Richard's gone out and done a bit of everything. He's done like Icelandic and bloody hell, he's been to like back old comps and yeah, like he's got all these stories of like going to different places and trying it. I'd love to give that a bash. I'd also like to try and get like wrestling showcased and do like I wouldn't mind doing like an MMA sort of like thing just to try and four-hip someone or four-eve them and then have like a commentator be like, oh, that was like some judo throw and then correct them and then like there'd be uproar or not uproar, but you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's the best way to showcase it. Every time someone, that's what was stuff in UFC, every so often someone will do something quite different. And then they go, oh, that's from that. Then everyone go, no, that's from that. That's from that. And suddenly you get all the different martial arts coming in, claiming that move or that
yeah,
hold
yeah,
or whatever. And no, I think that's a brilliant way of, because UFC is probably the best thing we've got globally now to show what works.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Everyone's got all these little techniques and things now, but that's probably the biggest showcase for anything now. So yeah, MMA sort of side of it. So no, that'll be cool. No, good luck on it.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah.
Oh
Just doing it though, isn't
yeah,
it?
that's the other thing. Yeah, time and training and money is
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
the biggest ones. But
100%.
no, it's been great chatting to you. I mean, we've got any other bits you want to get? Anything else you'd like to say?
No, I don't think so. I think we've covered everything that I had written down. To be
That's
fair,
it.
yeah.
No, it's been good. Well, no, well, thank you for taking the time to join us today. And again, 2026, I want to get down there at some point and have a go. At
Yeah,
least
big
take
class.
even to check out some of the sites on those videos because some of those tournaments you've done on the big bays and the cliffs and you can see the water, it just looks amazing anyway. Let alone then
Oh yeah.
getting beaten up there will just be a bonus. It's just like because the scenery itself. If you haven't seen it, anyone go in. So I'll link the Facebook and that in the show notes and that, so people can go and
Yeah,
have a
yeah.
look and some
Yeah.
of the videos and that. And yeah, because it's amazing stuff. And it's what I really like about it as well is the fact that some of those venues it's been there for hundreds and hundreds of years. So you're kind of standing. There's a bit in one of the cheesy Van Damme films where he's like doing martial arts at a temple and he can hear all the things
Yeah,
from like
yeah. Oh,
especially the centuries gone by. But that's kind of when I look at that, that's what I think of though, because it has taken place there for that many times, and you're sort of locking up there. You're like locking up with the history of it and
yeah, yeah.
the thing of it and all that. And yeah, no, I'm a big fan of all that. So I'd love to do that one day.
Yeah, no, yeah, it'd be great to have you down to be fair, mate.
Oh,
Yeah.
no. Well, thank you, and I'll film it all for this as well, and you can
Yeah,
just
yeah.
everyone can watch me take a kick in. And but no, it's all good. Well, thank you for taking the time today, Luke. It's much appreciated.
No, yeah, thanks for having me, mate.
Thank you, Luke, for joining us this week on the show. And I wish you well in your continual revival of Cornish wrestling. You can check out all about them on our notes on the grapplerride.com. All the links and that will be there under this episode, so please go and do that. In the meantime, I've been your host, Brett Summers. This has been the Grappler Ride Show. We'll be back next week with another episode. But as I say, you can keep up to date with everything we're doing on the grapplerrideshow.com. You can also check us out on our social medias. We're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and all the other ones. Our new episodes drop every Thursday at 7 a.m. UK time. You can watch them on our YouTube channel, or you can listen to them on Apple Podcasts, Audible, Spotify, Podcatcher, Podchaser, all the usual podcast apps. So please give us a like and a review and a subscribe. They really do help us spread the grapple gospel further and further around the world. and every little bit does help. You can interact with us on YouTube, you can see us on the website, but the main thing is that you are watching and listening. We'll be back next week with another guest, so until then, stay safe and stay on the mats.